So guys, welcome to this YouTube video. I am sat here with a very, very special guest. Now this is Kieran, and Kieran actually did my copywriting, so the social media copywriting, and he also did all the distribution for my clients for a long, long time until it got to a point where he actually got to the highest level you could get to within his company. So he actually works at Times Magazine. He works in their marketing department, their marketing subsidiary, and he is now the boss at Times Magazine, within the marketing sphere. And he manages $500,000 a month in retainers and $650,000 a month in ad spend. Him and his team that he's built. So if there's someone who's like at the pinnacle, like it's this guy. So I thought I would bring him on. First of all, as I said, one of my team members or old team members now, now that he's got, the huge responsibility and someone playing at like the highest level. So I thought I would bring him on to talk a bit more about like high ticket sales and just how, people who watch my YouTube and stuff like that, they see like, I'm not sure if you know about stuff like drop shipping and like affiliate marketing and like all these cool sort of financial vehicles, but they see guys making like $1 million profit, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million profit, and these numbers are like boggling to them. But you've seen in terms of social media marketing like levels which are crazy. So if you could just touch more on social media marketing, where you think it's going. Is there a demand for it with clients, and just generally?
Yeah, cool. The amazing thing about social media marketing is that my job didn't exist even by the time I left school. You didn't have companies investing that much in social media. Nobody really knew where it was going. Anybody over the age of 40 thought it was something that their teenage daughter did. It was of no interest to them. They saw absolutely no return on investment for it. And then almost overnight, people started to see that they could make money out of social media. People started to see it being done well and how they were getting ludicrous amounts of basically free marketing. And the value of that was just astronomical. Some of the early adopters of that are still making a fortune from it with actually very little investment because they were really quick on the bandwagon. But then companies started to think, okay, all these budgets that we've been wasting on things, because bearing in mind where you get to the really top level, where you get to these massive companies, the likes of Coca-Cola, the actual money they spend on the drink itself is negligible. You're paying 99p for 1p's worth of product. With them, the money that they invest in is marketing, it's PR, it's strategy. So little of it is in the product. And the same goes for any mass consumer product. Anything that you wash your dishes with, any of the really unsexy items that you have in your house, no money goes into the product. It all goes into advertising or strategy or PR or marketing, whatever you call it. It's about getting people to trust that product. So you have these companies throwing tens of thousands of pounds a month at PR companies, and PR companies, you wouldn't believe how many PR people there are in the UK. It's one of the most popular professions, and why on earth that is the case, I will never know, because now it's in the power of people, because people are direct consumers of social media. So companies suddenly realised that social media was a direct way to get their message across. And this is kind of our strap line as an agency. We say we turn advertisers into publishers, because instead of people being in your face, instead of a company always being present in a horrible, really shouty way, they're suddenly your friend. So you have these companies realizing that the most clever investment they can make isn't backdoor strategists, isn't people lobbying at the government, it's going directly to the people, and it's having really genuine, authentic conversations with them. So you have these budgets there, and the companies now know that they're to be spent. We're absolutely in the golden age of this, and I think you wouldn't be where you are now if you were born 5 years later. I wouldn't be in this job at my age if I'd been born 5 years later, because this isn't going to happen again. We're not going to have this revolution again where companies are on the cusp of being professionally set up with social media. The number of huge household names that we encounter on a daily basis whose social media is a disgrace, and we say to them, look, for like a tiny amount of your marketing budget, we can do something really, really impressive, is phenomenal. But they're running out. And you've got the companies who are willing to spend hundreds of thousands on social media, and they're there, and the budget's there, and you've got to capture them. And if you're young enough and you're savvy enough and you get there first and you say, you know, all that money that you're wasting on a PR agency, you know, all that money that you're wasting on like buying 30-second TV slots, why aren't you spending that on social media? Because here's the amazing return on investment you're going to make. And that's where you're getting huge, massive, ludicrous retainers, because the companies have those budgets and you're providing them with a really, really clever way of using them. But that's going to run out, and we're in the golden age of it, and you've got to be really, really smart about getting them. So you've got to be the person who is approaching these companies and saying, do you realise how silly you're being? Do you realise how much money you could make from this? Speak to me. I'm the expert. I can do this really well. You can do that in so many ways. If you're talking purely about direct advertising, if you can say to them, we can use like actual proper targeting and retargeting and making sure you're only speaking to the people you want to speak, rather than throwing away £100,000 on a 30-second TV slot that nobody is going to engage with after they watch. Suddenly you're going to have companies saying, yeah, we're going to do this instead, buy TV. Why would we ever touch you again? But that time's running out. You've got to be really, really clever with how you do it. But there's money out there that there's not going to be in 5 years' time. And it's a fool who isn't taking advantage of that and grabbing it.
Yeah, guys, I mean, if you start to get on this right now, like, I, one of the reasons I first got started with social media marketing and I've stuck with it is, it's on the up. You know, you never want to get into like a financial vehicle that's on the down. Drop trippers, sorry. But you get my point, right? At the end of the day, every single industry is going to live the best of the best. But like the thing is with social media marketing is it's just getting started. Like, you know, it first started with those companies that like had such a small budget that they really needed to figure out what the hell they were doing. Like, you know, kind of just bootstrap it, you know? Now it's getting to the point where like these companies that are paying 5,000, like, why is it that I had clients paying me anywhere from, my top tier clients were paying me $4,000, $8,000 a month. And I was a 17-year-old kid, because either they spend it with me and I actually know what I'm talking about, right? And I understand the platform, or it's very easy. You put it very simply to them. You go, look, I mean, here are your other options. Either you do some Yelp advertising. Do you want to run run ads on magazines and TVs? Do you want to do a billboard ad? Because you're going to get zero control. You're going to get zero feedback. And then here's me, where I can literally pinpoint where we target, right? I can reach the right people, and I can actually give you some feedback, and you can actually know your money is being spent well, right? So there's companies that are starting to make that shift, and over, I'd say, like the next 5 years or so, like there's so much opportunity out there. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, you get to that stage where not only if you're getting into social media marketing, then you can get into consulting, you can get into speaking gigs, you can get into training, right? There's so many different ways you can go about it. And, you know, the best of the best, right? The biggest companies out there, they're scrambling and they're looking for ways to just understand this thing, right? So I think, like, you know, now is the time to get started with social media marketing, because there's so much opportunity out there, and like it gets to a ridiculous scale. It gets to a level where like these companies are just throwing, like, because here's the thing. The thing is, they're going to waste money either way, right? Like they're going to spend a company that's doing maybe 10 million in revenue is probably going to spend 500, if not $1 million on marketing and advertising. It's going to happen either way. It's just, do they want to spend it on billboard ads, which they're realizing is ridiculous, or PR, or like strategy, or are they just going to spend it on reaching the people directly, right? So as I said, it's something that is just like, you've got so much opportunity in front of you right now. Do you have any advice for, okay, obviously some of your, like the clients you handle, like one of the biggest retainer is what, like 100,000, 150,000, like obviously can't disclose the client.
Can't disclose it, but around that, yeah.
Okay, so within that realm, right? So point is just high ticket, very, very high ticket clients. Do you have any advice for someone, there are people on the other side of this, and I've managed to do this, right? And I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it was possible to, charge a client, $4, $5, $8,000 a month, or go speak at or train a company and charge $5,000, $10,000 for that speaking or training event. Do you have anyone who was, say, like in my position a year ago, where they're like scrambling for like the $500 retainer, $1,000 retainer? Do you have any advice for how you should start to think or act or talk as you start to try and get like, these higher ticket clients?
Probably the really, really easy answer to that is you've got to have an impressive portfolio. And that's so simple to do. If you've really worked hard for a year, and if you've got some impressive results, and if you're the person who's saying, look how much money I made this company, look at this amazing thing I did for them, which is really, really simple, you're going to start to attract more people. You obviously have this amazing personal brand that people start coming to you now. Ultimately, you want to end up there, but you really, really do need to have those case studies, and you need to have that stuff on documentation somewhere on your phone. You should have a little 3-page PDF thing that says, here's this amazing advert I ran for somebody, look at the results. And if you're standing next to somebody and you flick that up and they see that, that's so much more impressive than you saying, oh yeah, I do a bit of advertising on Facebook. If you're really, really passionate and you really look like you know what you're doing, then people will have that trust, and they won't care about your age, and they won't care about your apparent lack of experience. People ultimately care about money, and at whatever age you go up to somebody and you say, I can save you this much money, or I can make you this much money, they're going to listen. You've got to have a bit of credentials to do that, and you've got to have something that looks fairly impressive, but there's nothing to stop you putting that together. And if you've really worked hard for a year and you've proven you know what you're doing, then you can go up to somebody and say, they had £1,000 budget, and every month I made them £3,000. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to then go to a bigger company and say, if you give me £3,000 a month, I'll make you £9,000 a month. And if the proof is there, and if there's no reason to suggest that wouldn't work for them, they'd be a fool not to do it. They're not going to look at you and go, yeah, but you're just young, you don't really know what you're doing. They're going to go, we've got the deal of a lifetime here, let's take it. Who cares who they are? If what you've done before speaks for itself, you don't need to.
Yeah, I think really, and this, by the way, this advice does not apply for the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month range. With that stuff, very easily you can do the cold calls, do the meeting, and then close them on the spot. We're talking like $5,000 to like $100,000 a month. I think when you get into that realm, things that are musts are personal brand. First of all, go look at someone like Gary Vee. He talks about legacy. I mean, dude, that's cool. He puts out great content and he makes a lot of sacrifice for his YouTube, but he's only doing it for money. If you think otherwise, please, just be a bit more logical, right? The only reason he puts out his YouTube content is because then he can go to Pepsi and charge them $150,000, $250,000 a month via VaynerMedia, right? And all of my high ticket clients, they're too hard to reach via the phone. Probably the most high ticket you can do via cold call, or at least in my experience and my sales guy's experience, is $3,000 a month, which is still amazing. You can duplicate that. But when I got into the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month range, or as I said, $5,000, $10,000 just to go speak, that's when it was through personal brand, referrals, building a good network. And as Kieran said, you should have a document on your phone where you have your best case study, which, by the way, isn't that hard to get. Or even if it's a mediocre case study, it's so easy to flip on its head and make it look amazing. But you should have that on your phone, right? Social media marketing, one of the cool things is social media marketing is one of those things where everyone needs it. Everyone needs marketing advice and social media marketing advice. So no matter where you go, whether you're at your mom's birthday brunch, or you're at some networking event, or you're at some sports bar or something like that, you're always going to bump into someone who needs it. So always have that case study or that deck ready and in front of you, and just ready to go. So can you touch on more about maybe sort of any mental shifts that they have to make? Because I know when I first got started, I'm like, dude, I'm a little kid, I have no experience. Why would they give me this much money? But what I didn't realize is pretty much with all my clients, I've underpriced myself.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize is how much money they're going to spend either way on so much stupid shit. And like, you know, probably my biggest mistake thus far has been underpricing. When I charge $6,000 to speak, I should have charged $15,000. Or when I charge a $4,000 retainer, I should have charged $8,000. So can you give any advice sort of speaking in that like $15,000 to $100,000 a month range? Yeah. To talk about maybe like mental shifts that you have to do to get there, or also about like pricing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So one of the really interesting things about social media is, and I've said this to you so many times, it's one of the few things that people consume, so they think they can produce it. So when you go to speak to these companies, everybody thinks they know a bit about social media, and it's so easy to go in there with your tail a bit between your legs and feel like you're cheating them and that you're overcharging them. And actually, once you build up a bit of confidence and you realize how little people know about how to do social media properly, that's when you start to give off confidence, and that's when they start to trust you. So if you go in and you are not sure how much they know, or you think, well, of course they know that, and you start to second guess yourself, then you're going to look quite foolish. But if you go in and you say, you know what, I know more about social media than anybody in this company, I'm going to school them, I'm going to get them amazing results, then there is a total mental shift there. One of the scariest things for the people I work with is we go into these massive all agency meetings, and you've got people there from media buying businesses who they're kind of account directors or whatever it is, and they're 30 to 40 years old. And then you've got the kind of head strategist or the head of marketing or head of PR, and they're all sitting there and they're middle-aged, and they've got loads of lever arch files in front of them. And then it gets to your turn to speak, and you're 20-something, and you think at first that's a bit ridiculous that you're speaking, and then you realise that you're worth more to the business than all of them combined. And you've really got to get into that mental state and think, I deserve to be here. And it's a case of logic. You wouldn't be working for a company, or they wouldn't be considering you unless they knew that you were going to make them money. You wouldn't get your foot in the door if they didn't think there was money to be made out of you. And in business, money is the only thing that matters. Companies don't take on teenagers to work for them out of the good of their heart. They don't think, oh, this will be sweet, we need a bit of social media. They think, well, if they can make us money, then we're going to bring them on. So the fact that you're making them money, that gives you total credibility, and you really need to realise that. You need to realise exactly how much money you're making that company. That's not difficult to do. You can work that out. If you've got access to their Google Analytics or something like that, you can see very easily how much money you're making them. But if you think, well, they've given me £2,000 to spend, you then know that you're making at least £2,000 for them. You're never making at least £2,000 for them. You're making triple that. You're making quadruple that for them, because that's how businesses work. So you've then got to think, okay, I know how much I'm worth to this business. And if I walked away now, or if I charged them slightly more, are they going to turn around and say that's unacceptable? They're not. They're going to say, yeah, you know what, it's a fair price because you're making money for us. But that's a really, really strong mental shift that you've got to make. One, to know that you're as good as the other guys, that the middle-aged man who's sitting there, you're making more money for the business than he is. He's there like as a relic of how businesses used to work. You've got to know that you're better than him. And you've also got to know that you're making the money, that you're making the business money, and that you're there for a reason, and that you can afford to charge them exactly what you're worth. And don't worry about having a difficult conversation with them. Don't worry about saying, you know what, we've been doing really, really well. I want to offer you more, but this is going to cost more, or I've had to reconsider the way this has worked. Don't worry about having those difficult conversations, and don't worry about going to those bigger companies, because they need it and there's money there to be made. You've got to know how good you are and your worth, because there's phenomenal worth there, and there's people who are charging 10 times as much as you and delivering absolutely nothing. So you've got to have the confidence that they have, because they're 40 and they've never been challenged in their life. You've got to go in with that same confidence and know that you're better than them.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, like, basically just to summarize, there's so much opportunity. And, you know, especially like the most competitive space is like at the bottom. But once you just get like, honestly, once you're like, I'm a year into my my journey, and like a year in, I can honestly tell you like the opportunities that open up are ridiculous. It's just exponential. And as I said, it gets to a stage where like, people get paid 150K just to go speak for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on stage, or to go train someone's team for 2 days. They get paid 150K. It gets to just a ridiculous level. So for anyone starting out, do you have any tips, to sort of work up the ranks and start working in that just higher tier?
Definitely, yeah. As you start at the very, very beginning, you should know all the basics. That's so easy to do. That's so easy to test it out on your personal brand, to do a tiny bit of direct advertising, or just getting your followers up, whatever it is. You should know how to do that. Slowly, as you build that confidence up, or quickly if you're doing it properly, then it's not going to be difficult at all to come by those small clients. And then using all the kind of tricks that you'll learn, where you start to get people referring for you, and you start to get a bit of traction, and you start to, your personal brand is then worth something, then this is going to happen naturally. You're not going to have to make these monumental steps in your career. If the kind of old expression, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. But it's true for this as well. If you're getting all the basics right, then all the bigger stuff's going to come to you. But there's no excuse really for not getting the basic stuff right, and slowly you're going to build up to that.
All right. Well, guys, there you have it from someone, as I said, managing over $500,000 a month in retainers and over $650,000 a month in advertising and paid traffic. So, guys, as I said, Kieran is actually a team member of mine, and now, congratulations, is the new boss for Times Magazine. Yeah, guys, super excited. He actually features on for 3 modules within Influencer Ignited, Six Figure SMA, where he goes through distribution, where he goes through high ticket sales and high ticket management of high ticket of clients, as well as some of the new changes to the Facebook algorithm and what that means for advertisers. So getting very little sleep right now, but this Sunday, Six Figure SMA will be coming out. We've had roughly 15 odd test members going through the program, testing out, making sure it is just foolproof, bulletproof. And yeah, guys, as I said, this is something that I'm very proud of and really excited to bring to you. So yeah, I'll see you soon.